Superhero Talk Show. I am your host, Brad West, with my co-host, Mr. Greg Burrow from Dragons Are Comedy and Fantasy, and Anastasia Anderson, and we are talking about clones. This is our last part of our series, Bring in the Clones, and we are going to end on Miles Morales. Now, like I said before, clones are a rite of passage for spider people in the Marvel Universe. Every spider person's got one. And why should Miles be any different?
Silk doesn't have one.
Silk doesn't have one. You're right, she does not have one yet.
Right, give it time.
I'm sure. Does Spider-Gwen have one? I don't know. I have to go look that up.
I don't think Spider-Gwen has one either. Or a Ghost Spider.
Or Ghost Spider, as she is called.
What about Spider-Woman? Jessica? I think she does.
Yes, she does. You know what?
What about the other Spider-Woman that has now become?
No. Julia Carpenter does not. I can
I was about to say, we could have parsed this out at the last episode.
Julia Carpenter does not. Well, we'll have to go back to that. So, you know what? Writers are dropping the ball. We need some more Spider-Girl clones.
Right. It's like we haven't had enough clones.
We haven't had enough clones. Oh, if you've been watching this week, you probably want clones for your birthday. Everybody wants a clone. You get a clone, and you get a clone. Everybody gets a clone. So, today we're going to give Miles a clone. Now, Miles Morales, as we know, spins out of the Ultimate Universe and got integrated into the main universe. But before he got integrated in the main universe, the very first interaction between Peter and Miles, one of my favorite storylines, was called Spider-Men. It was the first time that Marvel, not just that they had the main Spider-Man and the Ultimate Universe Spider-Man crossover. It was the first time the main universe and the Ultimate Universe crossed over at all. When they originally did the Ultimate Universe, Marvel said, we're not going to let these interact. We're going to keep them completely and separate unto themselves. We do not want them to cross over. But after the death of Spider-Man and his own Clone Saga, as we mentioned yesterday, and Miles Morales took over as Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe, Miles was such a popular character and such a runaway success that they couldn't not have the two Spider-Men meet. And the Spider-Men miniseries, written by Brian Michael Bendis, who would help co-create Miles Morales, and is also part of the inspiration for the movie of their first interaction with one another. A lot of the content from the movie came from this miniseries.
Okay.
Is when Peter in the main universe ends up in the Ultimate Comics universe and encounters Miles Morales. It was a great story. If you can definitely find it in reprints and trade paperbacks. Spider-Man. And it's really good. I love the interactions. I love the mentorship. I love Peter's reactions. Like his first reaction is like, he's like, I just can't get over how much cooler your costume is than mine. Peter's like, your costume's so cool.
That's cute.
I know I've mentioned this part before, but I love it when he runs into Nick Fury. Nick Fury picks him up because Nick Fury is keeping tabs on everything that's going on, and there's this dimensional incursion and everything, and they're in the transport, and everybody's sitting there trying to be feeling awkward, and Nick Fury's like, so what's the Nick Fury like in your universe? And Peter goes, white. And then Nick Fury's like, well, that's unfortunate.
I love it.
It's just a dead man. Well, that's unfortunate. And, it's really cute interactions, really great stories, and I love the mentorship, and him helping Miles get over the guilt and encourage him to be a better Spider-Man and all this stuff. And by the time it all ends, the last thing that he says, and the last thing that Miles asks is like, so do you have any more advice for me as being a better Spider-Man? The last thing that Peter says to him is, don't let anybody clone you. That was literally how that story ends. He's like, don't let anybody clone you.
Right.
Of course, it's them taking a dig at the whole Clone Saga and everything like that.
Right, and we laugh.
But I'm going to say this really quick. It's kind of a side
segue.
Here. But if you've not played the PS4, PS5 Miles Morales game, you really need to. It's amazing. It is so good. I loved it. It was,
Yeah, I loved it.
really good.
Cool. I'm not a video game player, but I would love to one day. I may just do that for.
Well, one of the things I really loved about it.
We're working up to it on our Patreon. We're going to do that.
Right.
One of the things I really loved about it was that there's actually a character in there that is the only way she speaks is through sign language.
Yes, it is really neat.
Is it Echo?
What? It's an artist.
Artist, okay.
And so he like talks with her through sign language.
Nice.
And like whenever he talks to his mom, they speak in Spanish. And it's really inclusive, really awesome.
Very nice. Very nice.
Really great.
Right.
So anyway, Peter's advice to Miles is don't let anybody clone you. So here we are, almost 10 years later.
Right.
In
laughed
fact,
and gave him clones.
just in time for the 10-year anniversary of Miles Morales' first appearance. And it is the current Miles Morales series has just hit issue 30, which is basically, they call it legacy numbers. It's the 270th solo comic featuring Miles Morales.
Nice.
All right.
And for the last storyline leading up to this is, and they just simply called it, because, why mess with a good thing? They just call it the Clone Saga. So now, as you've learned, there are already 2 separate storylines called the Clone Saga. We now have 3 Spider-Man Clone Sagas, and this one features Miles Morales. Now, I'm not going to spoil this one because it's so fresh, and it's out on the stands right now, and it's really worth reading. I am going to tell you, like, the broad strokes. Basically, somebody has managed to clone Miles. He encounters 3 really cool clones of himself. Not just 1, but 3. One is an older, mature version of him, and he's much more brutal. He's your darker.
He's the edgy one.
He's your edgy one. He looks like Miles, but older, with a better haircut. I love the haircut that they gave him. He calls himself Salim. There's one that has not only more of the spider mutation, he's got extra legs and extra eyes, but he also has remember how I told you Kane had a overdeveloped version of spider sense where he could actually see the future?
Uh-huh.
This one, who's called Mind Spinner, has psychic powers instead. He has basically mind control and illusion casting. And then, I mentioned before the much aligned Spider-Side clone from the original Clone Saga, who was a version that had, like, shape-shifting abilities. Well, there's one called Shift, who is kind of a screwed-up version of Spider-Side. He is able to shape-shift kind of like a blobby kind of thing, but he cannot maintain his physical structure.
Oh, okay.
And the really cool thing about this Clone Saga is it ties directly into the Spider-Man miniseries. Now, there were 2 Spider-Man miniseries. There's Spider-Man and then Spider-Man 2, where at the end of the first Spider-Man miniseries, it leaves Peter wondering, oh, I just met this cool cat in this other world called Miles Morales. I wonder if he exists in our world. And at the very end of it, he's sitting at a computer, and all you see is Peter come up across. He looks at the screen and he goes, oh, wow, that's interesting. The second Spider-Man series, and this is after Miles has been incorporated into the main universe, expands upon that. I'm not going to spoil any of that because that's a really, really cool storyline. It's a really cool story. And it leaves in an interesting place, but it picks up directly into this Clone Saga. So, before you read the current Miles Morales series, make sure you pick up the 2 Spider-Man miniseries, because they lead into this Clone Saga, which is super ironic, because at the end of the first one is like, don't ever let anybody clone you. In fact, at the beginning of this Clone Saga, he actually reaches out to Peter for help. But by the time it's all said and done, Peter, they get their asses handed to them. And he's like, you know what? I need to face this I feel that this is something I should do on my own. These are my clones, and I need to take care of this. And he sends Peter, he's like, you know what? You got your own stuff. You got enough on your plate. You go do your thing. I'm going to go do this. And it's a really cool story. I really love it. It introduces some new supporting characters that I really am enjoying. It introduces a new trans character I was telling you about, Anna.
Yes.
He introduces this really interesting character, Kenneth. And Kenneth Miles does a very Peter thing in reaching out to this kid who's getting picked on and basically befriends them and sets them up with a Janet Van Dyne fashion school scholarship. And the reason this is important is because by the time it's said and done and all these other clones have been running around causing havoc, it leaves Miles, A, with his costume destroyed, and B, with him not feeling the affinity for the costumes. Like I said, there's these other guys running around in his costume doing all this bad stuff, so he decides he needs to shake things up and freshen things up. And so the Miles Morales 10-year anniversary issue that came out this month, which is number 30, or the 270th legacy issue, has him in a new designed costume. And it's a fresh new costume. I was just showing it to Anna today.
I like it.
I like it. I love it. Stylistically, it's great. Practicality, I feel like the top is too loose and it would cause some problems.
Right. I mean, it's something people have adapted to, but like, and the other problem is, the only other thing that I'd be like about is that I don't really like cowl neck things that much.
Yeah.
But the more I stared at it, like the more I saw dynamic pictures with it, the more I was like, you know what? If they sold that in stores, I'd buy it.
Not as cool as the Crimson Cow costume in his game. I have to get on top of that because it's really cool.
And also, what I would really like to say is that the Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 30, he's actually hosting Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's had his own story. It's really good. Make sure you're checking those out.
And 31 just came out this week.
31 just came out this week? Okay, cool. So yeah, it's in stores now. Make sure you go and check it out at your local comic book shop. And we thank you for joining us for the ride for the Spider-Man clones. Is there anything that I missed or anything that we talked about this week that you're going okay, you got to expand on this for the viewers or anything of that nature?
Not that I can think of.
I mean, there was a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot. I'm really actually kind of surprised that there's as much merchandise for some of these characters as there is.
Ooh, that is cool.
Isn't that great?
That is super cool.
The
Okay.
Crimson Cowl costume. I would have loved to have seen him in that in the comic book because it's
that would be, yeah, I mean, well, and you like more structured stuff, so
Yes.
I'm like, that would actually be a really cool idea.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we have this week.
All
I
right.
think, and we got some stuff coming up for you in the future. We're going to talk more about the symbiotes and stuff like that.
Yes.
After this, we're going to be doing our Halloween episode. I believe we're talking about Spawn.
Halloween week.
The Halloween week. Yes, he's going to be our focal Halloween. He's the seminal horror comic hero of our age. And yeah, okay.
I mean, Werewolf by Night, maybe.
I mean, of now. Werewolf by Night is classic.
There's a new Werewolf by Night who's an American Indian.
I know, but we've talked about, well, okay, maybe we'll bring up the new Werewolf, but we've done Werewolf by Night a couple of Halloweens, so we're gonna go with Spawn this time around.
And then there's Swamp Thing.
We've done Swamp Thing. We've done these things. Go watch our old episodes.
We ran the gamut.
And we're gonna do it. So thank you for joining us on the Red Web. Make sure you're going to bradsredweb.com to catch up with us, share, like, and subscribe, and drop us a line. Tell us what you want to hear. And check out our Patreon. It's coming out with some new fun behind-the-scenes stuff. And you're going to see me beat Greg with animals. Like, there we go. And we promise violence.
Animal.
Right, drinking.
Thank you
Violence.
so much. Y'all have a great one. This is the
By the
Red
way,
Web.
if you haven't seen Muppet Haunted Mansion, it was pretty good. I enjoyed
I
it.
totally forgot about that.
No, you said we said we were gonna watch it together.
That's why.
We'll watch it
Okay.
together. That's what's going on tomorrow. Remember you said, what are we doing tomorrow? That's what's going on tomorrow. Okay, so anyway.
Yeah.
We've devolved as far as we're going to go.
Sorry.
You know what? We did that on purpose. This is a sneak peek of what it's going to look like on our Patreon page. So make sure you're following that. It's Patreon.com/Brad's Red Web. We love you, and we appreciate your support. We'll catch you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.